talking about the importance of money, resources, wealth creation, and a lot of people complain about, okay, what has happened in the past, but the reality is there are things that can actually be done to change the future of our lineage today. John Hope Bryant, founder of Operation Hope, has a new book out, folks. It is called Financial Literacy for All, Disrupting Struggle, Advancing Financial Freedom, and Building a New American Middle Class. He joins us in studio. Doc, glad to have you here.
Honored to be here. Came here just for you.
Let's talk about it.
By the way, people need to, when you're in Washington, go to the King Memorial, go to the Lincoln Memorial, go to the White House tour, do all that, then come see Roland Martin's real serious studio. This is not some created on Instagram thing. He's got I'm really upset with him because he's got an entire command center, control room, that looks just like CNBC, CNN, or anybody else. It is absolutely beautiful, and it was done by a black-owned company.
Yep, out of Atlanta. So lights were done by a black-owned company. The green screen done by a black drape company. The set was built by a black set design company. And black artists.
He's got Freedom Journal on the wall.
Black artists,
yeah.
black artists. So all that.
You get off the elevator, he's got elevator ID. You got call that. I keep talking about the streets to the suites. So he's got literally he's gone from the streets and reporting to building an enterprise in the suites, and he's got elevator access. You know you made it when you have elevator access for your building. So come see Roland Martin.
It's blocks from the White House, so you gotta have all that.
Yeah.
But you gotta have. Well, look, when we talk about.
And you can't do this unless you're real. That's my point. You can't fake this. This is real estate, prime real estate, real cameras, real staff. These are not AI people. This is not artificial intelligence.
No, we ain't doing that.
This is real people. This is real staff people, real producers, real makeup artists. It's very impressive. I see 4 different setups for studio setups. 6, excuse me.
So the set is 1,
yeah.
Standing position is 2. This is 3, that love wall is 4, the green screen is 5, and you didn't see the art pieces of Prince, Miles Davis, and Jimi Hendrix.
I saw when I was here for the holiday.
So that's 6, yeah. And if you throw in the kitchen where we can shoot stuff, that's actually 7.
Yeah, so when come to Washington, make sure you ask for a tour. Maybe he'll say.
Well, only those who will contribute to the Brina Funk fan.
Well, there you go. There you go. And that part.
Got to do that part.
Silver rights.
Because you got to fund it.
Silver rights.
And that's the thing that we talk about this a lot, John, and that I'm always trying to explain to people. We can't talk about how do we advance African Americans? How do we get out of poverty? How do we do all of these things? Then you have people who talk about, I hate capitalism and I don't like how it's done. And I have people hit me, man, why are you begging these white folks for advertising money? And I'm going, let's see. Disney takes advertising money. Comcast takes it. Fox takes it.
It's not white
Netflix,
folks, it's green folks.
It's almost $400 billion spent every year on advertising. Wow. Black-owned media can't be in a position of poverty when it comes to saying, oh, no, don't take any of that, when that's what the whole industry is based on.
So Saturday, first of all, the book, thanks for talking about the book. The book, Financial Literacy for All, debuted on USA Today national bestseller list as number 1 on nonfiction, number 9 amongst all books. No, I think it was number 13 of 12 of all books, and number 9 on Publishers Weekly, and number 1 on Amazon for economics. It's still number 1 in business on Amazon 2 months later. And best I can tell, black and brown folks are buying the book, and they're enjoying it. And so I encourage people to pull it out, put it in your kitchen table, have a weekly conversation, go into a school, teach folks about this, go to your sororities or go to your fraternities. Just make this a normal conversation. Go from civil rights to silver rights, from the streets to the suites. This is the new movement. Financial literacy is a new civil rights issue of this generation. On Saturday, you and I were talking, I think it was Saturday, you landed in Palm Springs, and on your Twitter feed, if you refuse to call it the new name,
Same.
Thank you. On your Twitter feed, where people were arguing about something that was pretty ridiculous, well, why are you talking about capitalism? I hate capitalism or something like that. But it was really funny. They'd say, I don't support capitalism, and they're on a phone, they're using the comments, they're making the comments on a phone or computer that they bought with capitalist money. In other words, you use your human capital to go get a job and be compensated for that talent, or you have a business that compensated you. That's free enterprise and capitalism. You then went and bought a product from a capitalist, which is Apple or Android or wherever you bought your phone. That's not the government. That's not a socialist. I'm not even sure what a socialist is. All socialism is the tax system. That's a whole other conversation. But that's capitalism. You're talking on a screen that is made by, well, a capitalist. You are interfacing through a platform, Twitter, which is a capitalist system. Everything around them, your car you're getting into, that's a car note, that's capitalism. Or a manufacturer, that's capitalism. The place you're sitting the note, you're either renting it or you're owning it. That's capitalism. People say, oh, I hate rich people. No, you don't. You hate rich people until you become rich. What you hate is a game system.
Right.
Rightly so. What you hate is a system that is rigged against you so you can't succeed. Rightly so. Hate the system, hate the game, but become the game master. And that's the transition. You know, whenever the rules are published and the playing field is level, we kill it. The thing that
Reverend Jackson has said that for years.
Really?
This is why, that's literally, I was watching a video from 2010. He said, why have we excelled in sports? Because of what you just said. The bottom line is,
rules are published.
Rules are published.
Playing field is level.
Level. You get 5, I get 5, you get X number of timeouts. The basketball goal is 10 feet high, same distance from the free throw line. No matter what court you go, it's 94 feet long. Now it's like, all right, let's play.
Let's play. By the way, the arts, same thing.
Yep.
Either you like my performance or you didn't.
Right.
Either
you can sing or you can't.
Right. Either you like my lyrics and you want to buy them or come to my concert or not. Church. That's where we are able to articulate for the first time. That became a place of power, right? And that we proliferated in faith to this day, from slavery to this day. Politics. Rules are published, playing field is level, either you vote for me or you don't.
Unless
folks are trying to
shutting down voting locations, voter ID, can't give what. That's where the rig part comes in.
Sure.
You know,
but more black mayors than we've ever seen. U.S. senators. My point is, where the rules are published and the playing field is level, we kill it. All we have to do now is master free enterprise, capitalism, economics, and ownership. Also, black people and brown people are the only group of people, and poor whites, who didn't use free enterprise and capitalism to set themselves free. Out of literally hundreds of ethnic groups in America, what are the 3 groups held back? Poor whites, more poor whites than poor anybody else. And by the way, if it was only about race, there wouldn't be poor whites, it'd just be rich whites. But there's more poor whites than anybody else because some got the memo and some did not. Going back to 1600s, Native American Indians, #1 alcoholism rate in the country, unfortunately, because of depression, and they were locked out of the prosperity, and their land literally taken from them, which had oil on it and all that kind of stuff. And African Americans, not African Nigerians, not African Ghanaians, not African Caribbeans, not African, Africans, African Americans. The numbers are different because experience is different. But when you give us a business plan, and we can understand the rules of engagement, oh my God, we over-index. Golf. We've discovered F1 racing. We discovered soccer. We do tennis. Wherever we enter a platform and somebody gives us the memo, that was my fourth book, the memo, we kill it. So now this is a platform, an entry place, a business plan for us to begin to kill it successfully around free enterprise and capitalism. And it is inevitable. It is a natural progression. Dr. King's last book, Where Do We Go From Here? His speech, as you know, Jobs and Freedom. I mean, he was talking about money all the time.
Well, in Theobald's book, The Guaranteed Income, that's what he gave out to all of his lieutenants, which is where he was a believer in that. And the thing that I was just telling someone when I was in Palm Desert, that you go back to
with money that you earn honestly from a network you own, which you control, all your golf fees, all your plane tickets, all your rental cars, all of it financed by a network that you control and own in your self-determination. I'm just making it plain.
Speeches and all of that.
Yeah, but I'm just making it plain for people.
So the thing that was, I remind people about the April 3rd, 68 speech, the Mason Temple, where he specifically talked about companies that we were going to boycott. He specifically said we have to redistribute the pain. That's what he said. What he said in that sermon. See, everybody keep talking about the mountaintop part. Well, that's the last 2 minutes. Everybody know the other 41 minutes of the speech. And in the speech, he was very specific when he said that if you do not do business with us, we are not going to do business with you. But later in the speech, he talked about the power of the collective. He said, individually, black people are poor. He said, but collectively represent one of the largest economies in the world. He said, so we need to be moving collectively. And that to me, I think, is part of something that people don't want to confront. How do we move collectively? How do we work together? How do we not, I don't trust you, I don't trust you, I don't know, and in these silos, and how do we use our organizations to do what's right by us and not just right by them for themselves?
The first thing we've got to do, Roland, is heal. In order to deal, you got to heal. I mean, there's 3 ways to live: suicide, and you can die alive. You can be the most dangerous person in the world, a person with no hope. We pass people all the time, the eyes just glazed, living in a surviving mindset. So you got suicide, you got basically surviving or dealing or hustling or trying to get by. Then you got healing, and most of us are in this sort of middle factor, the INGs, drugging, drinking, texting, sexting, sleeping, all the INGs. What we have to do is get the healing, and once we deal with that and then get the mindset right, then get the financial literacy right, then get our skills right, technology and financial literacy, get our business plan for the rest of our lives right. Once you do that, now if I don't like me, I'm not gonna like you. If I don't feel good about me, I'm not gonna feel good about you. Why somebody play hating Roland Martin? Why wouldn't they just say, bravo? I mean, if you have high self-esteem, you're like, God bless the brother. I may not be my business plan, but I'm glad he's killing it and more like it. But if somebody's hating on you or me, that's not my problem, that's their problem.
I even said, look, it's the folks who run their mouths on YouTube, they be on social media, and I've literally said, I don't pay attention to you.
Because you have high self-esteem.
But I also say, y'all, do you. I don't care. Go do you. Say whatever you want to do. Do whatever you want to do. Because I don't talk about y'all. But you're always talking about me.
I like what you're doing much better than what other people are not doing. Again, are you an expert at what you're against, surviving mindset? Are you an expert in what you're for, thriving in a winning mindset? That was my 4th book, I think, Up From Nothing. So all this is part of a narrative, and what we have to realize, Malcolm X, we've been bamboozled, we've been tricked, we've been fooled. They really succeeded in destroying our self-esteem. Our self-esteem. And so the part of the working together thing is we got crab in the barrel disease really badly. But again, if I don't like me, I'm not gonna like you.
Tom Burrell talked about that in his book Brainwash when he said that there's been no group in America that has been under continual assault.
Mental assault.
With messages.
Emotional assault.
Through media. Yes. Over such a long period of time, African Americans. You always use the phrase, we need a reboot. I always use the phrase
rewire.
That we need to be reprogrammed. Yeah. And when we talk about even financial literacy, there has to be a starting point. Like it's sort of like when you do tons of panels, summits, whatever. When I moderate them now, I'm not about to sit here and have an hour conversation on the problem.
About the problem.
I can't, because it's like, we can run all this stuff down, and I just want to cuss somebody out. I'm like, we got problem, boom, 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 now we better focus on total solution.
That's right.
So there's somebody who's watching who's like, all right, that stuff sounds great, but look, I can't pay my bills, I'm broke, I can't save no money.
I'm gonna make you a millionaire.
I can't do it of that.
I'm gonna make you a millionaire. This program, within 5 years, I'll make everybody watching a millionaire. Just do what I say.
Hold on, before you go there, tell them what your mama did.
Oh, yeah. Whew. First of all, she told me, she almost brought tears in my eyes because my mom passed last year, been promoted. Roland knew Mom, Juanita Smith. Mom told me she loved me every day of my life, but that's not what you meant, but that's important to say. When your kids screw up, say, I'm frustrated with you. I'm gonna discipline you, you future lawyer. I'm gonna jack you up. I'm gonna give you a whipping, you future entrepreneur. In other words, you gotta discipline them and structure them, but you also gotta to let them, throw them into their aspirational future, because self-esteem, again, is that sensitive thing. So my mother told me she loved me every day of my life, no matter what I was making a mistake. I made a mistake, I wasn't a mistake. Number two, Mom worked and I know this is what you meant, she worked an hourly job at McDonnell Douglas Aircraft. She made $15 to $17 an hour, Juanita Smith. And Mom and Dad divorced over money, so everybody thinks I had a silver spoon in my mouth. My sister Juanita, my mother, my sister Mara, my brother Donnie. I was the youngest. In South Central LA, we had a gas station, hustle, apartment building, gas station in Vernon and Normandy. Home on Martin Luther King Boulevard was called Santa Barbara. Apartment building, for eight-unit apartment building was worth millions a day. Roland, we bought it for $18,000 back then. Own our own home, cement contracting business. My dad did it with his own home. My dad was a hustler, but he was financially literate. So the more money he made, the broker we got. They argued over money, got divorced over money, domestic abuse over money. Mom went to go live with somebody else, saved enough for a down payment. By the way, we lost all those assets, lost it all. We went to go buy our first home in Compton, California, 15502 South Fraley. She used the equity from that house to then buy another house. While she was working, she did a side hustle on the job. By the way, anybody watching this who's married, one salary to pay the bills, one salary to invest.
Yep.
Right. But so my mother would have this side hustle selling handicrafts and candies and things she made. She'd save that money to go buy down payment for another home. She bought and sold 7 homes. And when she passed away with an hourly job, 32 years at McDonnell Douglas Aircraft, now Boeing Aircraft, she had $1 million net worth. She had a will, she had a life insurance policy, which she cashed in. She had a burial policy. You know, when I had to go do a GoFundMe campaign to bury her. Can we please stop this? Please stop the GoFundMe campaigns for burial. It costs you $25 or $4 to get a $25,000 insurance policy. You can get, for $40 a month, you can get $1 million life insurance policy. There's your generational wealth, getting ahead of myself. Mom had a will, an insurance policy. She had a savings account, had, X dollars in it.
Right.
And she had these homes that she bought and sold. And when she passed away, there was $1 million that could be distributed, that was distributed over time to her heirs. And so here's a working class woman at basically $18 an hour. So don't tell me with a high school education, went back to school at age 62 and got her high school equivalent and marched with cap and gown. So this is possible. I'm gonna lay out before we finish how everybody watching this can become a millionaire within 5 years.
How?
So this is the church of what's happening now and what have you done for me lately. This is not the Republican Party or the Democratic Party, this is the Get It Done Party. And we need folks to help people get it done. Let's get it done. Financial literacy should advance your life. You're making $38,000 a year. You've got 3 children. You're watching this program. You're like, how does this change my life? Mm-hmm. Okay, let's walk you through it. I want you to to go to financial coaching with Operation Hope. It's scholarship for you, so it's free. It costs you nothing. It's worth about $10,000 when you sign up. We're gonna get your credit score up from 54 points in 6 months, 120 points in 24 months. Let's just deal with the first 6 months to a year.
And you're getting the credit score up because when you get that car or you try to get that house and you have a low credit score, that interest rate is higher and you're spending more money versus somebody who has a 650, 700 or higher credit score.
Oh, yes, but even I'm using the Roland Martin blunt category. If you live in a 580 credit score neighborhood, which is a lot of our neighborhoods, and you go get that Mercedes from the buy here, pay here lot, they charge you 18% interest because your credit score is 580. It's not a Mercedes, it's Mercedes payments. And that car is gonna explode, implode, they're gonna take it back and sell it to some other person who had a 580 credit score. So I wanna get your credit score up 54 points into the 6s. Your interest rates is going to come down, right? We're going to also reimagine your budget because you shouldn't be going to Starbucks 3 times a week, and you shouldn't be smoking cigarettes. The cigarettes.
Also, at 38,000 miles and 3 kids, I'm sorry, I'm going to go and say you should be buying a Mercedes.
A lot of people,
I'm going to say it.
As you should, but a lot of people do it. When your assets are on your, it's a problem. But a lot of us, as you know, do it. So we're going to stop the bad habits. And by the way, if you have a 580 credit score, it's an error in your credit report. So the first thing we do is we challenge the credit bureaus. And the law states if they cannot confirm it's yours within 30 days, they must remove it.
And on that point, that's where you want to shout out Congresswoman Maxine Waters, who was really aggressive in helping getting those laws changed.
Yes.
To the mandatory free credit report.
Yes.
A lot of those different things.
She put officers in each one of the federal agencies also that deal with these issues, make sure there was an ombudsman in these offices that advocated for this. People don't know all the good stuff that she did and does. So credit score is one. We get your credit score up. And typically we can get you into the mid 600s. That's going to change your life. We're going to get your budget down, get your debt down $3,800. Now you're making $38,000 here. That's 10%. We're going to get your savings up $2,000. That's not, the magic hasn't happened yet.
Right.
This is just through coaching and counseling. Then we're going to say, have you ever heard of the Earned Income Tax Credit? Mm-hmm. And you're going to say, what's that? And we're going to say, well, congratulations. If you ever haven't heard of EITC, and about $20 billion a year goes back to the federal government every year because our folks don't have tax pros, tax planners, or tax expertise, so we don't even know what this stuff is. But in translation, you make $38,000, you have 3 children. You work. This is not a handout program. The government owes you a check for working. It's a bonus for working. Just like a bonus on Wall Street, this is one on Main Street. You make $38,000 a year, 3 children, government owes you about $6,000. Probably more like $6,500. You go, whoa, that's a tax refund? Yes, it's cash. We're gonna get a bank account for you. If you don't have one, we're gonna open one. We're gonna wire that money in your account. By the way, if you've never heard this before, you've never filed. If you never filed, it's retroactive for 3 years. So now you make $38,000 a year. We've now just because of
if you haven't filed in 3 years, at $6,500 a year,
almost $20,000.
Boom.
All right. So now we're giving you $2,000 of savings because of our coaching and counseling. We've reduced your debt for $3,800. We got your credit score up to the mid 600s. Now you're paying less in interest rates. You're not getting paymentized. We just got you a check for almost $20,000. You can take that $20,000. You can put it. Yes, you can pay down your consumer debt. Yes, you can pay off your car loan. Yes, you can pay down your student loan debt. But I prefer you buy an appreciating asset. I would prefer you to put a mortgage on good debt. There's good debt and bad debt. Mm-hmm. Bad debt is when you finance something that depreciates like jewelry. And good debt is when you finance something that appreciates like a home. 43% of us own a home.
Customized jewelry, but go ahead.
Look, yeah, well, I was watching this show the other night, last night actually, with this NBA player. I'm not picking on poor people. NBA player said he was in a car, and he bought, this jeweler was in the back, he had bought a $50,000, he's got his bonus check, $50,000, piece of jewelry, probably cost the jeweler $8,000, by the way. And the guy behind him, the NBA player behind him, was competing with him. They compete more off the court than on, and he wrote a $250,000 check to the jeweler at the same time. $300,000, that jeweler probably spent maybe $20,000 on that. The rest was pure profit. And you're going to sell it, and you can't sell it for a fraction of that.
And it wasn't a black jeweler.
No, it wasn't a black jeweler. Okay, anyway, but back to the story. So now you can take $20,000 or some portion of it, pay a little on your student loan debt, pay a little on your car loan, down payment on a $100,000 house. I want you to buy the best house from the worst block. I want you to buy in the hood, D-A-H-O-O-D. In Paris and inner cities called France.
Now, hold up. So you want, first of all, you're saying buy in the hood because one,
it's centrally located real estate.
Centrally located. 2, land is cheap.
Yes.
Okay.
And they were stupid enough to put us there, but now they want it back.
Right.
Anacostia, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, 50 years ago in the Industrial Revolution, pollution, where's the worst place you can sit? On a hill next to the water. Why? Because the pollution pollutes the air and pollutes the water. But now in a clean economy, where's the best land? Next to the ocean, on a hill. What did Anacostia do? Got completely revitalized now at the headquarters for the National Guard and all that kind of stuff. FEMA's over there, and people are buying land. That's where Frederick Douglass, by the way, owned property. Inner city in London, in the UK, is called London. An inner city is centrally located to jobs, commerce, transportation. It is a center. Well, they moved out in the 60s and the 40s and the 50s to create their own environments. But now with traffic, nobody wants to.
Yeah, white flight in the 70s, and then all of a sudden that was happening in the 80s, and then in the 90s it was kind of like, damn, we done went out so damn far. Now it's an hour and a half.
East Wave.
Now it's 90 minutes.
Now they're like, black folks not so bad. So now they drive.
So what then happened was they went, whoa, all this cheap land,
Harlem.
all of a sudden comes in, start buying. So we call it gentrification. I remember when I moved to Chicago.
It's a move of the middle class.
Dude was complaining about that.
Bruh.
And I was like, bruh, I said, I'm just gonna be honest with you. I said, do you rent or do you own? He said, I rent. I said, you ain't got power. He goes, what do you mean I don't have power? I said, you don't have power. I said, owners have power. Owners can decide to sell. Owners can decide to jack your rent up. I said, bruh, we gotta stop. In fact, when I did the urban leagues. I'm the largest minority owner of single family rental homes in America, right? Me, personally. Mm-hmm.
I mean, Promise Homes Company, 700 homes. And I'm encouraging not to rent. I'm encouraging you not to rent. You come to me, get that job at McDonald's. Do it for a little bit and then bounce. Go to Walmart. We all have those jobs coming up. It wasn't meant for you to stay there forever. Go there as a stepping stone, get your career, get your degree, and keep it moving. Come rent from me or somebody else. Frederick Douglass, by the way, owned $6 million worth of rental real estate in Baltimore, Maryland. That's how he got his freedom and was able to be an abolitionist, because he had free enterprise freedom. He even put his own check into the Freedmen's Bank. Wrote a check for $10,000 in 1865. Do that calculation, because he could. So rent from me for a few years, and then go either through me or someplace else and go rent to own and build your wealth. Because the number one way you build wealth in America is home ownership. But 41 to 44% of us own a home. 75% of our white counterparts own a home. This is the easiest pathway to home ownership. I want to get back to your story, then I'll come back to how you finished on the $1 million. What were you about saying about?
Yeah, in terms of, so when you're talking about making these decisions, and we talked about even the car decision, 2008, when I decided I needed a new vehicle because my nieces can't live with me, my Corolla was too small.
Right.
Go in, the guy was like, hey, he said, so we financing? Nope. He goes, we leasing? Nope. He said, what we doing? I said, we're gonna negotiate, I'll be back in 15 minutes. Because one, I said, I'm not about to sit here and pay you interest on this damn car. Negotiated, went to the bank, got a cashier's check for $49,000, came back. Now here's the deal, that's 2008. This 2024. That Navigator outside. I don't give a damn what y'all think. First of all, I barely even watched the Navigator because I don't care.
You should have watched it though.
No, I don't care. I really don't. When I say I really don't,
I know.
I really don't. It runs.
Yeah.
That's all I care about.
I'm a car guy.
So part of this is also, when you're talking about the building blocks, you also have to change a mindset where you're not so concerned about what somebody else think or impressing them. No, it's a bunch of people who make decisions with purchases that they make who literally are broke and who are underwater.
Our assets are on our ass. Just say it. Just say it. Look, we're renting with money we don't have in places that don't want us to impress people we don't know about shit that don't matter, and have conversations that don't involve us. Aspirational people talk about their ideas. Poor people talk about other people. What's happening in our barbershops? What's happening in our hair salons? We're talking about rappers and celebrities, and we're on social media all day talking about somebody else's idea or somebody else's beef versus owning some beef. Nobody washes a rental car. Nobody washes a rental car. You drive it and you bring it back to the owner, which is a car dealership or the car rental company, and they wash it. You got to own some stake to be a stakeholder. Right. So that's why we're talking about becoming an owner. I want you to go in the hood. I want you to go into a working class, black or brown, doesn't have to be black or brown, but it could be white, rural, doesn't matter. But a working class neighborhood where it's near jobs, near industry, near transportation. I want it so you can access home ownership. I want you to buy, I'm making this up, $100,000 house. Now, if it's Montgomery, Alabama, this works. If it's Birmingham, this works. It used to be Atlanta, by the way.
Well, first of all, in now a situation, because we have such few housing stock, I mean, I actually went and pulled the neighborhood that I grew up in. I grew up in a 1,230 square foot house. that home was, I think the mark was 175. And even in that neighborhood, I saw homes at 250, 275, 300, 350.
You may have to move.
So what's happening is folk are like, yeah, but I mean, I don't know about that particular area. Yeah, but you still don't own anything.
Yeah, exactly. You got a doorman at a place you don't own. I mean, it's like the drug dealer saying, this is my block. No, it's not. It's the city's block, right? No, you don't own the doorman. You don't own the door. You don't own the window. In fact, you're opening the window and literally giving money away. Every time you write that $3,000 check for rent, you're helping somebody like me pay off my mortgage for the investment of the whole building. Back to the story. So I want you to take that $20,000, do a down payment, and get a $10,000 down payment assistance grant from one of these banks that we will hook you up with. We'll get you a prime mortgage, a $10,000 down payment assistance grant. You take $10,000 of your own money, $20,000 together, and buy a $100,000 house, right? And the compounding effect, because you build wealth in your sleep, make money during the day. You may have to watch this over again, by the way. You build money, you build wealth in your sleep. We confuse making money, making a living. We think that's all there is. No. If that's all you're doing the rest of your life, you'll be broke.
Right.
You've got to build wealth in your sleep, which is stocks, bonds, investment, real estate, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Buy that home and sit on it. All right? Now you got to live somewhere. Live in some place you own. People say, "Oh, well, I don't own the bank. I don't own the home.
Right.
The bank."
Right.
Dude,
Folks on social media like, well, if you do that and it's a 30-year mortgage, you don't own the home. The bank owns the home.
That's ridiculous. No, if you don't pay, the bank will own it. If you don't pay me, I'm gonna own it, right? I mean, so this is real common sense. If you get the tax system was designed for home ownership. So if you get that 30-year mortgage, 20 years of that's interest payments. You can write it off against your taxes. So that you're basically getting that money back every month. You're paying $1,200 a month out. You're getting $1,000 back in a tax refund if you do it right.
So when I was in the situation, in the position,
I gotta get to the $1 million, but go ahead.
When I was in the position where I had to make a decision to whether or not I wanted to pay off my house, and my CFO was like, "Well, if you do that, won't even tax write-offs." I said, "Look at that interest rate, and look what I'm paying on interest." I said,
"What year was this?"
This was 2004, 5.
Okay, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I told her, I said, "No, I'm paying this off." Mm-hmm. I said, CNN, Tom Joyner, I'm speaking, I got books, and so I said, I had overpaid taxes twice and got two $25,000 refund checks. And I was like, no, I said, I'm paying the house off. And so she was like, yeah, but I said, no, I'm not worried about the interest rates. I said, because, again, I knew TV contract, look, 3-year contract, no, you got a 1-year contract that gets renewed.
Right.
So what ended up happening was, I paid the house off.
Right.
So the only thing I'm not paying every year was taxes.
Property taxes. Yeah.
Property taxes.
Yeah. Which is another way we lose property.
Right. Well, my sister, her 2 daughters would live in the house. Then my parents, they moved into the house.
Yeah.
Sister, daughters move out. My nephew, who's working for a bank, he moves to Dallas. He lived so literally, there have been 3 generations of family living in the home.
Right.
But the other thing is that by my parents living in my house rent-free, that also impacts our entire family in terms of
culture.
There you go. So again, so when I explained to my CFO, no, this is why I'm paying it off.
Yeah.
So now I said, and as I get older, I got a house that's paid off. I just make enough money every year to pay the property taxes. Mm-hmm. I said, and so it was, but it was forward thinking.
Yeah.
And I've gotten calls for the last 6 years, folks trying to buy it, buy it in cash. I'm like, nope, don't even call me again.
Don't sell. That's another thing. Don't buy it. Don't sell.
I bought it at 122. Yeah. The value now is 340.
Yeah. So yeah, I bought a condo. So I bought a townhouse in LA. I forget what year, 2000, probably 2004. Bought it for $170,000. No, I bought it for $220,000. It went down in the 2008 crisis to $1 something. All my friends were like, sell it. I didn't freak out. I'm like, I gotta live somewhere.
Right.
And so then I moved to Atlanta. I rented it out to a police officer who didn't pay, who paid late. I rented it out, but I forgot about it. Then about 2017, I went to go sell it. And I needed some money to buy something else, and I called a realtor, a friend of mine, black realtor. Hey, what can you get for me for this condo? Now, supposedly I'm the financial literacy expert. Roland, I was laid out, stunned.
You bought it at 175.
I bought it at 220, went down to 175 in the crisis. That's the last time I checked.
Right.
Now, I didn't do anything to this house. I didn't paint it. It's a townhouse. I didn't paint it. I did nothing. I just paid the mortgage, right? And that was being paid by the renter. I was just paying the property taxes. $750.
Wow.
I said, excuse me? He said, yeah, the market for that is $750. Sell it. So I sold that. Then when the year was a 1031 tax-free exchange, it was another property I was looking to buy, and we can't get into too much detail because you know a lot about what I'm about to tell you now. It was a property in Atlanta that I could buy for $750. I bought that. I took the $750 from California, tax-free, transferred it. This is why I think you think about taxes depending on whether you own or you don't. But I use the taxes to my benefit. Bought in Atlanta with no tax penalty. That property today is worth millions of dollars. So it really cost me. My down payment of that $220,000 condo was about $30,000. That's really that and property taxes every year, which was $1,000 or something. It's all that cost me, and that ultimately creating a multi-million-dollar property by financial literacy strategy. Going back to this exam, and I bought a place in Turks and Caicos that's doubled in value. I didn't do anything. I just bought and hold. So buy this $100,000 house, $20,000 down. Do not sell. Within 2 years, I want you to go and get a home equity line of credit on that home and take some equity out of that home and buy a second home. Now I want you to buy something that's raggedy now. You could buy in Atlanta, when I moved to Atlanta, you could buy a home for $15,000. A raggedy home with a tree in the roof. That's exactly the one you want. Buy a home, get some local contractors, black folks, brown folks, buy it, rehab it, and rent it. So I want you to buy it, get a construction loan, future value, take that money from your home equity line of credit, put it as a down payment, construction loan pays the rest. Now this is good debt. Finish it with minority contractors, I hope. Half of my contractors at Promise Homes Company, by the way, are minorities and women, and rent it out. Then, in the year 4 now, do it again. Take the equity, buy a third home, rehab that one, rent that one out. Do not sell. You're a millionaire. That's $1 million net worth. Then I want you to get while you're healthy and young, every young person watching this, go buy your life insurance policy. Knock it off. Stop debating it. Get a term policy. I don't care what you get.
What age? What age?
I mean, if you're 20, 25, 35, if you're 35 years of age and you're in good health, no one's going to question, the insurance company's not going to question your health. They know they're not going to drop dead.
If you're 50 plus.
It's going to be slightly more expensive, but still get one. So if you're 25, you're going to spend $50 a month and get $1 million policy. If you're 55, you're going to spend $100 a month. It may be a $100,000 policy, but you want a policy.
Right.
And by the way, if you work for a corporation like even mine, I have 400 employees. You don't know when you pass away, there's a $25,000 burial situation, death policy inside of your health insurance policy. I want everybody go read the paperwork now. If you have health insurance right now, go read the fine print. There's probably a burial or a death policy inside of your health policy. That's the $25,000 to bury a loved one. You don't need a GoFundMe page. You should do that for the investment. You should do that for some big idea, not to bury the past. We should be creating generational wealth through life insurance policies. $1 million policy for somebody who's 25, 35 years old watching this is generational wealth. You can get it for $50 or less a month. But you do this whole thing I mentioned, the will, simple will, a life insurance policy, earning a tax credit. Thank you, Roland, for giving you a check. Because of him, you're watching this. Financial coaching through Operation Hope, which I've scholarship to you at between $5,000 and $10,000. Sign up to the 1 Million Black Business Initiative, by the way. Your 9-to-5 job will finance your 5 to 9 gig.
So before I go, get ready, Mustafa and Larry, person in our chat. I got no kids. Why would I want life insurance?
Mamma mia. I mean, first of all, you don't want to be a burden to society when you croak. Number two, it is a vehicle for savings. Get a whole life insurance policy versus a term life insurance policy. It's a savings vehicle. This is the wrong mindset. Like whether you believe you can or whether you believe you can't, you're right. Is the glass half empty or the glass half full? It depends who's looking at the glass. Get your mindset right. Stop hating on capitalism and saying you can't do this and do that, and do something. Stop waiting for the perfect to be the death of the good. The perfect is the death of the good. Just do something. Like, if you're broke right now, it's like people say, well, try God. Well, why should I do that? Because God cannot possibly mismanage your life. Worse than you are. Give him a shot. Look, black people are one of the few people on the planet who've not used free enterprise and capitalism to set them free. Say what you want about Jews. I want a black Jewish business plan. That's what I want. 7.5 million of them, they represent most wealth in this country, and they were discriminated against, jacked up for going back, centuries. There's only 15 million of them in the world. It's unbelievable. Nigerians, they're black, but if you look at the chart I sent you last week about income levels, Nigerians are right at the higher level of all groups in America on income levels in America. By the way, whites are below them. These are black people, but they got their mindset right, and they are, as we know, they're natural hustlers. By the way, the number one group of young people in the world populating, Nigerians. So within our lifetime, you're going to see a majority of minorities in America. You're also going to see a majority of minorities populate the world. And if we don't figure this free enterprise system out, everybody's going to be broke. And you've never had a superpower that wasn't the economic power at the same time. So I need this brother to change his mindset. Just try what I'm saying.
Right.
It's not about the life insurance policy. It's about the action. Like you go to 1 million black business, you sign up. You try it for 2 years. It didn't work out. But now giving you a hustler's mindset. Now giving you an entrepreneurial can-do mindset. Well, you can take that into a job. You can take that into a career.
Question, Mustafa.
Yeah, well, John, thank you for dropping knowledge as always. I'm curious, when do we start teaching younger people about financial literacy? I know I started my first business when I was 10. Everybody around me in my family owned their own real estate and told us how important it was. But I don't see a whole lot of that. Based upon your experience, when do we start helping folks with that literacy?
Diapers. I mean, in Atlanta, Mayor Andre Dickens, I want to give him some love now, and he has really done a bold thing. He came to me and asked me to do, him and Keisha Lance Bottom said, will you do a bank account for kids in school? Sure. How old? Kindergarten. I'm like, really? He said, we want to do kids accounts. And they found that if you give a kid an account at kindergarten with no money in it, they're 50% more likely to go to college. You put $25 in that account, which is what the city funded, they're 75% more likely to graduate from college. The whole mindset changes because the kids now connecting education with aspiration at a young age. So we now have every kid in the Atlanta public school, thanks to the city of Atlanta, funding $2 million to Operation Hope to start it out, to get every kindergarten kid now has a Hope child account and it sits at Citigroup, so it's an FDIC insured bank, it's managed by us. We're not going to wrap financial literacy around that, to your point. So now we're raising up a whole new, I said, Roland a note, I said, I want you to change the street out front to Black Capitalists Matter. And I'm only partially joking. Like, we need a complete mindset shift. And to your point, when I was in ninth grade, when I was 9 years old, I'd seen 2 murders before I was 9 years old over money. And I went to school and this white banker came and taught financial literacy. And everybody wasn't interested, and they were looking at the ceiling and throwing paper clips. I'm paying attention to this dude, because all I saw was death with drug dealers, everybody dying in front of me. So I said to this guy, he came in once a week, Roland, for 6 weeks. The 4th week, I wore a suit. The 3rd week, I said, what do you do for a living? And how'd you get rich legally? I was dead serious. He said, I'm a banker and I finance entrepreneurs. I said, sir, I don't know what an entrepreneur is. I never heard that word my entire life. But if you're financing it and it's legal, I'm going to be one. The next week, I came in with a suit on, the only suit I had. My mother made it, crushed velvet, purple, 3-piece suit. Mom said, I'm not buying you suit. You wear your Sunday suit, which I made. And the kids teased me, man. As you say, I didn't care. Had a little briefcase, nothing in it but my dreams. I'm strolling to school. I'm trying to be like this banker. And I'm role modeling what I saw, a success. And I started my first business from that. It was called the Neighborhood Candy House. I put the liquor store out of the candy business, made $300 a week on a $40 investment, and so became birthed John Hope Bryant, the entrepreneur. Also, the work of Operation Hope, I asked this banker, again, I'm 9 years old. I don't know what grade that is, but I'm 9 years old. I said, how many bankers are there in America? There's more than you? Oh, it's gotta be millions. How many banks? Back then it was 10,000, it's 4,500 now. So wait a minute, I said, it's your job to loan poor people money. If I can just prove, I'll pay it back. Yeah. And I don't get dead if I don't pay you back, because that's what happened on the street behind me.
Right.
No, we just signed a notice of default. Okay, I'm in. So that's really what Operation Hope is doing across the country, is teaching people how to fish at scale and to master this system so that you can become bank qualified, so you can access capital at prime rates. And so to your point, we really need legislation. We need, I call it civil rights legislation, financial literacy for all. The senator, hopefully he's still looking. We need bipartisan, Republican and Democrat, to embrace financial literacy for all legislation so that kids K through 12 are taught what we're talking about right here.
Larry?
Yeah, sure. It's a very interesting conversation. So, thank you for your insight. So, Black people have, and you kind of got to this, Black people have a history of taking a penny and turning it into a dime, right, throughout our history, because we had no choice. Yeah. So I wanted you to talk a little bit about, the kind of elephant in the room, the thing we really need to talk about as it relates to, obviously, financial institutions. And we just saw with Navy Federal Credit Union just a few months ago. And that's the role racial discrimination plays in the financial industry. And so a lot of that is unseen, and you get denied a loan and don't know about it. And I'm wondering, what are some of the conversations you had with folks from minoritized communities the other layer to this is, how do you may have faced challenges relating to discrimination in the banking industry.
I'm so glad you mentioned that. Is racism real? Yes, racism's like rain. It's either falling someplace or it's gathering. So get out an umbrella in the color you like and start strolling through it, because it's not going to change. It hasn't in 400 years we've been here, so you must. So was Navy Credit Union real? Yeah, the guy walked in here, everything was right about his profile. Absolutely. Is appraisal discrimination real? Without question. I have a home that's $1 million house in Atlanta, in near, I don't want to get too specific, but the Camp Creek area, the Cascade area. But that home in Buckhead would be $3 or $4 million, the same home. So I understand that, but I'm not focusing on what somebody else has that doesn't have it, or whether it be $4 million. I know I got $1 million house in Cascade, and I'm gonna get prime rates or whatever. And so discrimination is real, but this whole concept of white banks, we need to knock that off. In 1920, there was a white bank. In 1850, there was a white bank, literally a family of white people who probably were racist, who owned the bank. Today it's publicly traded. I own Wells Fargo. I own Bank of America stock. People watching this, I hope, are stockholders. So it's not a white bank, it's a green bank. Now, is there a person there who's racist, who may be your loan officer? Probably. Let me tell you something. You get a credit score with a 7 in front of your name, 720, 750, 780, my mother was 854. The bank just says yes. They may hate you, they may talk names or words about you, but really they want to make some money. And the computer, there's AI now, the computer at midnight is not asking your race. The bank will just say yes. Get your debt ratios up, your debt down, your income ratios proper. We can show you how to do it at Operation Hope, because we know what the bank will approve. Get that credit score up, as I mentioned. That's the most important thing. You have to have an income. And I guarantee you, in fact, not only will I guarantee the bank will say yes, if the bank discriminates against you still, because there's an exception to every rule, I will fund your loan. Operation Hope will put up our balance sheet that if the bank does not approve your loan, we will. And in 32 years of doing this, I've never had to fund a loan. And we funded $4.5 billion of prime loans for home ownership, small business ownership, et cetera, because we know how the system works. So, and by the way, you haven't mentioned it, but let's also deal with black banks. We should support black banks. I have a deposit at various black banks. The problem is they're just too small. They're too small, and their cost of capital is too high. They're afraid to death of loan loss. So they're gonna, unfortunately, in many cases, we should support black banks. Please hear me. We should all support black banks. We should have $1 billion asset black bank. but it's an and conversation, not an or. You probably need a relationship with them for savings and a checking account maybe with an ATM, and then you have a lending relationship maybe with them and a major bank that can give you, more optionality and prime access to credit. Sometimes you go to a minority bank, they're going to ask you for more down payment. They're going to give you a higher interest rate, and it's going to be less attractive terms. And that's not racism. Like, that's somebody looks just like you. They just have a more delicate balance sheet. They don't have the strength that the other banks have. So we just need to be more sophisticated in our approach. Discrimination is everywhere. Bias is everywhere. By the way, I got bums in my family. I don't need to go outside looking for one. I got bums who are related to me. We all can relate to that. We all have a Pookie in our family. Pookie them, right? So I over-answered the question, but it was a really important question.
You have been really focused on going after the folks who despise DEI. Explain.
Yeah, so this is just stupid. This is ridiculous. The folks who are canceling DEI are literally shooting America's business plan in the foot. And I wrote something called the Business Plan for America. I had a chance to debate Bill Ackman, the billionaire who led the DE&I effort, anti-DE&I effort around the country. I debated him at the Milken Conference privately in a private session last Monday, I think it was, the same day the Business Plan for America was released on LinkedIn. And I can't tell you what happened in this session. It was a private session, but there's been some articles written about it. And all I'll tell you is that the articles are not inaccurate. And I will also tell you that no one disagreed with my business plan. My business plan is just math. To quote Melody Hobson, I like math because it doesn't have an opinion. God has a sense of humor. Ambassador Young said, and he was on that balcony with Dr. King when he was assassinated, to live in a system of free enterprise and not to understand the rules of free enterprise must be the very definition of slavery. That's sort of where we were to where we have been. Here's the irony, Roland. 1950, America was white, 90% white. These are just the facts, shocking numbers. 1950, America was 90% white. That meant that what Dr. King, Andrew Young, Dorothy Hyde did was a miracle, right? It was just the right thing to do. Today, America is 40% black and brown. Within 10 years, it'll be a majority of minorities. You have the first time in history that you're gonna have a population over 65 in our lifetime. Those are white, wealthy baby boomers trying to retire. Social Security is not gonna pay for their retirement. It will only pay 70% of it within 10 years. Now you have this group coming into free enterprise in the largest economy in the world, $24 trillion, who are not prepared for the free enterprise system. And what are these anti-DEI people doing? Cancel, cancel, cancel jobs, career paths, internships, corporate gigs, school, so they can't create future capitalists. So I asked them, what do you want to do? Speak Mandarin? And by the way, because if we don't solve this, we will be speaking Mandarin in 10, 20 years. China will run the world. They want our place. So we got to prepare this group to lead the economy. Here's the good news. The diversity, the numbers are on our side. Biggest economy in the South, the traditional South. People just love messing with me. Oh, the South is Texas. The traditional South, Atlanta, Georgia. $450 billion a year. Roland is bigger than all 6 states around it. The city of Atlanta GDP. Mm-hmm. Take 3 states, Mississippi, Alabama, put it inside of Atlanta together, it's still bigger. The biggest airport in the world, the biggest economy in the South, the 10th largest economy in the US, and it's all of us. The color's green and is diverse. New York and California, biggest economies in the US, most diverse. DC, incredibly diverse. We have the biggest black population is right outside of DC as far as net worth. So
all cities, Houston, Charlotte.
There you go.
I mean, you start going.
The wealthiest companies are the most diverse. So what I say to these folks is, diversity actually is a business strength. The broke places are folks who actually have said, no, we don't want none of that progress. We want a white water fountain and a black water fountain. You go to some of these cities in the South, it looks like 1960. Nothing has changed and their economies have gone backwards. So the reason I like this argument is it's not an argument. you're hitting your face on my fist. The math is indisputable, and if we don't solve this, 4 countries want to take us out. China, Russia, North Korea, and Iran, which just became more volatile over the weekend because their president died in an accident. They want to take us out.
Helicopter crash, yep.
But they can't do it on a fair fight, Roland. We are screwed up. America's got all kind of problems, right? Democracy and capitalism are horrible systems except for every other system. America's a jacked up country except for every other country. I keep telling people, I hate America. Here's a plane ticket, right? They're not going nowhere. We have an incredible system that we need to make better. And the least of these God's children, us, just might be the salvation for the future of America as a superpower of the world for the future and the largest economy in the world. We just may save it by becoming financially literate, by becoming stakeholders and owners, by voting, and by being like almost moral capitalists. I know this is crazy talk, but
right.
I think it's actually a radical movement of common sense.
And you know, I always get a kick out when people say certain things, you know, I'll run their mouths. It was so funny. Somebody had tweeted, Roland spending so much time talking about his house instead of letting Franklin drop jewels on financing. This is the problem I have with this guy, ego.
Huh?
You know, and I had to respond back. I said, first of all, you clearly ain't paying attention because his name ain't John Hope.
Oh, they thought it was John. Like Franklin.
John Hope Franklin passed away several years ago. He was a historian. It's John Hope Bryant. But also,
But I'll take the association.
But also, when silly folk like that make those comments, what they don't quite understand is that you also have to make it plain.
Yeah.
And so when
and
you
relatable.
right. And so when you talk about, again, those conversations, how you make car purchases, how you make home
Practical
purchases,
stuff.
how you don't get caught up in brands. I got probably 6, 7 Air Jordans at home. I didn't buy none of them. They were gifts.
Yeah.
Cause I ain't never spending $200 on no damn tennis shoes. That ain't happening.
Right.
Because how I was raised. My dad was like, ain't no way in hell I spend that money. Thank goodness. We gonna close it. We gonna close it out with this.
Can I have 1 minute?
Go ahead.
Because you mentioned Air Jordans. I got to tell the story.
I know. That's how I'm about to have you tell a story.
Okay.
That's why I'm about to have you tell a story. I know what
I'm sorry. You've executive produced this. My bad.
Yeah, like I don't know how to make a segue. I know what I'm doing.
You do.
So that was a guess. So that was a conversation between 2 young men, and it dealt with the issue of Jordans.
But I don't know you always paying attention. I mean, okay, my bad. By the way, I love that you told the story about your house because people presume and assume you don't have a problem in the world.
First of all, I filed for bankruptcy. What people don't understand
I had a 500 credit score. I almost filed for bankruptcy. I was homeless.
I filed for bankruptcy because my appendix ruptured at the Democratic National Convention in 2000. Mm-hmm. I was over the miles on my lease. While I was in the hospital at the Centinela Hospital in Los Angeles, because it happened, the convention was there. They picked up my 4Runner from the airport parking lot.
Wow.
They must have been tracking.
Yeah.
Picked it up from there. Had to file for bankruptcy because I didn't have health insurance.
That's right.
And so it was nearly 60+% of Americans filed bankruptcy because of health insurance.
By the way, the Biden administration and Vice President Harris have created a situation to get any charges on your health insurance will come off your credit report.
Yep.
It's not well known, but that will not work against your credit report.
We covered that when she spoke in Detroit. Yeah. When she spoke in Milwaukee.
She's doing an economic tour, which
and then when I filed bankruptcy because they were going to foreclose on my home. And the home that I now own. Mm-hmm. And what happened there was a friend of mine, Mike Price, God rest his soul, Mike was like, Roland, he said, don't worry, because see, black people, we freak out. We have stress. Oh my God, and we will let people call us, email us to death, and we would drive our blood pressure up. He said, Roland, the moment you file for bankruptcy, they can't call you, they can't email you. Mm. He said, if you don't have the reason.
It was not chapter 7, it was chapter 11. I mean, it was a reorganization.
Right. So what he laid out was, he said, then what happens is, if your income is this and you can't pay all of that back, he said, it's going to get nearly all wiped out. And actually what happened, until I got the job with the Chicago Defender.
We're not supporting bankruptcy filings. He's just telling you the path.
Well, but here's what I'm not supporting it. But here's what I do know: white folks have used bankruptcy as a financial measure planning,
including the former president.
I was sick because I was sitting in one of the waiting for them to get called, and this dude sitting next to me, white guy, it was his fourth bankruptcy, and he's explaining to me what he did. He's explaining to me all the stuff that they bought, the jet skis and all that sort of stuff like that, and I'm looking at because I was looking at him and looking at all the stressed out black people. But so the thing there was, and so again, it was all going to get almost wiped out. Then I got the job with the Chicago Defender. It was paying me $110,000. Like, oh yeah, you got to pay everything back. I said, oh, it was fine. But the point is, people have to recognize we're not sitting here having this conversation as like some people. I guarantee you're thinking, oh, Roland, John, they got money. No.
I had a secured credit card with a $200 limit backed up by $200 in cash. I mean, I grew up in the hood. I was so poor I couldn't afford the OR.
Well, after the bankruptcy, I refused to deal with all that credit card drama. Took two CDs, gave them 20 grand.
Certificates of deposits.
That's the backup for my credit card.
Yeah.
I pay it off every single month.
Yeah.
So coming out of a bankruptcy, where the house almost got foreclosed on, where I had almost $100,000 in medical bills, paid the house off, today have no debt, launched this with $350,000 of my own money.
Right.
This has no debt. So I'm able to make decisions that where I'm freed from the shackles of debt. And so for the fool who was watching saying, me talking about my house, I did that because there's somebody who's watching and listening who has been in the same position.
That's right. We'll be inspired.
Who maybe had no idea
that,
and understand, filed a bankruptcy in 2004, got out of the bankruptcy in 2008, paid the house off in 2009.
Yeah. But hurt people, Roland. Look, if I like what you're doing much better than what other people are not doing. And most people don't have a business plan for their life. And so criticism becomes an easy sport.
Oh, by the way, because you said something earlier, I do want to just go. I do want to say this here to the somebody named Al Khatib. This also shows you when you're not smart when you tweet stuff. Because this person here claims to own the premier multimedia management and production company, and they have their website. I'm not going to give it, but see, if you were smart, you would have tweeted me about how do you partner with your multimedia company, your production company.
Or you hire them to do
versus criticizing me talking about my house. So one thing you just guaranteed, you would never get called. Go ahead and make your fire.
By the way, the panel made a great point about discrimination in banks. And what I'm going to tell you is that a lot of my entertainer friends, they'll call me because we want to be the rappers. The rappers want to be us. The rappers want to be business people. And they'll call me and ask me money questions. A lot of them they're banking with the branch manager. They're worth millions.
Right.
But they don't have, so this is my point. You need relationship capital. You need, if you hang around 9 broke people, you're gonna be the 10th, right? You've got to get to know the senior vice president, the corporate vice president, the somebody in the C-suite at these major banks, build a rapport, build a relationship with them, send them information on your business and your household, build a rapport so when you actually need to access capital, they know you. They can vouch for you. The word credit comes from the Latin word credito, which means credibility. The word capital comes from the Latin root word capitas, which means knowledge in the head. And banking is a faith business. Faith, credibility, and knowledge. It has nothing to do with money. If you understand this system, you can access capital at scale. I do now what's called non-recourse debt loans. I did a $100 million refinancing of my real estate portfolio at the Promise Homes Company earlier this year. It was non-recourse debt, which means I don't personally guarantee it. But when I started out, Roland, everything was personally guaranteed. A paper clip was personally guaranteed because I was broke. So that's the way this system works. You have to learn to manage. With that joke about banking, a bank will loan you money when you prove you don't need it. It's not untrue. So you got to have that higher credit score. You got to have that savings and have those ratios so the bank goes, oh, because capital's a coward. Capital's not trying to be courageous. Capital's trying to find the highest return with the lowest risk. By the way, so me too, by the way. I want to have the lowest risk with the highest return. So you got to present yourself in a way to the banker, they go, that's a good bet. That's a good investment. I'm going to loan them some money to do X, Y, and Z. I'm going to get it back. That's the way the system works.
Right.
If you look like a credit risk, if you look like you toe up and the flow up, they're not going to loan you money. That's not discrimination. That's a toe up a credit report. And when you go to the club tonight, everybody, some people have heard me say this before. When you go to the club tonight, not tonight, Friday, and you meet the girl, and she's cute, and you meet the dude, and he's handsome, and before you get too serious about this conversation, ask them their credit score. And I'm only half joking, because when you marry, you're marrying a life partner. You're marrying your business partner.
You're marrying debt.
Or equity. Okay, here's a story. So,
hold on, before you go that one,
Yeah.
when you talked about going to the club, also,
you know, marriage is not a romantic.
You got to be stuck on stupid, be paying $500 for a bottle that they paid $50 for.
Please stop. This is a whole other conversation.
Bottle service.
The bottle service, the VIP area. And don't go there during the day. The place is disgusting. All right, and you're paying $500,000 for something that costs them $20. Do you know, I know my billionaire friends own these clubs. They never go in them. They don't let their kids go in those clubs. They just have somebody showing up to get the cash.
A club is just like a casino. House money always wins.
Las Vegas keeps getting bigger. Hello. It keeps getting bigger. So a couple people may win, but on balance, the house always wins. I want to turn you into...
Vegas don't give my money.
I want to turn you into the house.
Except the golf course.
Except the
all right,
golf
finish
course.
the last story.
Which is good therapy.
Yes, sir.
So Roland knows this story. I love this story. So this kid reminded me of myself. I was in a Detroit classroom teaching financial literacy. My volunteers were at Operation Hope. And so I came and do a visit, and as I was walking down the hallway, this young man had just finished a financial literacy course, volunteer was in there, and he was wearing a little suit, reminded me of me.
Right.
So I was trying to get to him to talk to him, but his boys had got to him first.
Right.
Yo, man, what you doing wearing no stupid suit? He didn't say, it said something else, but I'm going to respect the broadcast. Hey, let's wear that stupid suit.
Yeah,
man,
we cuss on here, but I understand. Go ahead.
You wearing that stupid suit. You know, why you wearing that? Why you hanging around these dang on bankers? They ain't nothing. It's all punk stuff. Usually you're a punk. So I go to defend his honor, right? And I said, look, you guys, I want you to make a decision about Nike. Now, this is years ago. I'm going to give you $70 each. There's 4 of them. Make a decision about Nike quick. And he says, I want to buy a share of Nike stock. Man, they jumped. Man, now that's the second dumb thing you did. Well, you gonna buy some stupid ass stock. Excuse me, here I go.
I got you.
You need to buy you some Air Jordans. Back when they still needed another $30 back then. It was $100. Everybody got Air Jordans. Fuchsia Air Jordans, black Air Jordans, brown Air Jordans, leather Air Jordans. Everybody in school has got Air Jordans. You dumb, man. You need you some Air Jordans. I go to defend young Derek's honor. And he says, no. It's cool. I want them to buy those shoes. Because when they do, they're making me money. Bingo, light on. I'm like, okay, this kid gets it. There's a difference between being broke and being poor.
And for the folks who don't know, Anthony, go to my iPad.
He was saying that
Anthony, go to my iPad. This, y'all, is what Nike stock is at the close of business today. $92.82. So today, the reason Michael Jordan is a billionaire, and Michael Jordan, his mama forced that, Michael gets 5%. Michael gets 5% of Air Jordan sales.
Oh, yes.
5.
Yes.
Nike gets 95.
Equity.
But Michael Jordan is a billionaire.
Because of that, not because of playing ball.
Not because of his NBA contracts.
Right.
Not because any of that.
Right.
Because just 5% of the money the Jordan brand makes.
So what the young man was, to tie this together, we got to make smart sexy again. What the young man was saying was, y'all can talk all you want. It's what you said earlier. Not 1 ounce of my self-esteem. Depends on your acceptance of me. Y'all can say whatever you want. I want you to go buy those shoes. Be ignorant. I'm going to own the stock, and when you buy those shoes, you're going to have my stock go up. And at that point, I realized he got the memo.
I've said for years to our people, go to a store and say, can you please hand me one of those empty boxes of Nike? I said, and buy your kids some stock. put that stock certificate in that box under the tree and wrap that sucker.
Buy a stock certificate for a birthday or Christmas and put it on the wall. Frame it.
Right.
And put it on the kids'
What
wall.
I'm saying is, put the stock certificate in that box.
Yeah.
And have them unwrap it and say, I want you to understand that pair of shoes in that box
It's going to go down.
will be worn out in a year.
Yeah.
That is going to make you a whole lot of, and a sister who I worked at TV.
By the way, that was probably a stock split. That stock value for Nike.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that's multiples.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So it would, right. But again, though, when you don't know, you don't know.
Yeah.
And so that's why you have the book. Folks, the book is called Financial Literacy for All. Mustafa, Larry, did y'all have any additional questions?
No, you answered my question. Thank you.
Cool. Financial Literacy for All, Disrupting Struggle, Advancing Financial Freedom, and Building a New American Middle Class by John Hope Bryant. Always good to have you, my brother.
This is a civil rights issue of our generation, man. We got to move on the traditional civil rights movement. Thank them for that. Support all the organizations who did that, and then advance that with new software for the civil rights movement, from the streets to the suites. And this is the way we get our liberation.
Yep.
It's okay if you don't like me, I like me, and I'm an owner, and so your opinion really don't matter. And that's where we got to pivot, and that's where I think we're going.
So I'm gonna close out with this here. This painting here, y'all, is of my man Harry Belafonte. And Harry Belafonte, he put in his book and he said to me personally that he saw what happened to his mentor, Paul Robeson. When America got sick and tired of Paul Robeson kicking ass on racism, America, they would not hire Paul Robeson in America. But Paul Robeson was making lots of money internationally. How did they break Paul Robeson? They took his passport.
Wow.
He got some checks singing over the phone, talking to rallies,
Wow.
but he couldn't leave the country.
Wow.
So Harry Belafonte said, we saw what happened to Robeson. Robeson died broke. He said, I'm going to keep my activism, but I'm not going to let them do to me what they did to Robeson. So Mr. B, he owned his content, but he was investing, he was saving his money.
That's right.
Because he said, I can't be the activist. Paul Robeson handed him the mantle, handed him the baton.
Wow.
But he said, I don't want them to do to me what they did to Paul Robeson. So he protected himself financially.
That's right.
To be the activist that he was.
That's right.
If he did not protect his money, he died at 96. He would not have been able to do all the things that he did and have the financial freedom to do them if he did not watch his money. He said it was because of what they did to Robeson.
You know, it's possible, Roland, that the only true freedom is financial freedom, because all the others can be taken from you. And, and I want people, as you think about what Roland has done here, and we in this where we started, talked about ownership and the fact that this is his. I want you to think about this. Eddie Murphy, you love him. He's smart. He's funny. Eddie made his real money in investing. He bought one piece of art at an estate sale, right? $50,000. That the copy,
the famous Good Times art piece.
The copy of that piece sold for $18 million. The copy. The artwork is worth more than the house it sits within in any contract he ever got for acting. Everybody who watches this who knows a billionaire in the arts or sports, they didn't get there dancing on a stage, rocking a mic, or hitting a ball or bouncing. They got it by taking that, Magic Johnson, et cetera, into corporate. It's business.
Well, you lived in Los Angeles. We know her from the Jeffersons. Marla Gibbs owned a ton of property in Leimert Park.
That's right. It was called Leimert Park. That's right.
Lionel Richie owns a ton of property.
Stevie Wonder at that radio station.
On Rodeo Drive.
Yeah.
So again, it's but it's understanding. If you can be an activist.
Yeah.
You can be a social justice warrior, but when you have the financial freedom to do it, that's the only way.
Charlemagne owns his platform.
The conversation that we're having right now can't happen with over this period of time if I don't own it, because otherwise there's somebody in my ear saying we got to cut. We can only do 8 minutes. We can only do 9 minutes. No, but when you own it, then you can say, no, we can do the hour conversation.
Mm-hmm.
We can do it here. And that is the piece
that's
that
so
our people
powerful.
have got to understand.
That's so powerful.
You're not asking a producer.
So when I go on, I'm a contributor for CNBC, and I go on, and it's a 7-minute hit. And that's long for TV. And I love doing it. Now, Time Magazine and all this kind of stuff. There are only 2 times where I've done an hour piece where you can unpack this, where the 2 platforms where the person doing it owned it. You, today, and a couple weeks ago I did Charlemagne, and he's within iHeart, but he owns Black Effect Network, his podcasting network. He owns
a 50-50 partnership.
Yeah.
But
I'm on his board.
Yeah,
so
with iHeart, yeah.
It's a 50, but he did it right. He had them funded, but he owns the creatives. He's got publishing arms, and he's got his Breakfast Club show. But because he controls that, he can have an hour conversation with me about something that really matters. This really is an important conversation. I hope people watching this not only take it to heart and change their life, but give you the credit you deserve. You're a good man.
But I tell them, but the financial freedom allowed the creation.
That's it.
And that is how our people have to be able to think forward. Appreciate it, man. Always a pleasure.
My pleasure.
Fanbase is pioneering a new era of social media for the creator economy. This next generation social media app with over 600,000 users is raising $17 million, and now is your chance to invest. For details on how to invest, visit startengine.com/fanbase or scan the QR code. Another way we're giving you the freedom to be you without limits.